Hey, what's up? We're here in Miami. We're taking the Ask Todd V channel on the road for a little bit. And we have a question today from YouTube. Let's check it out. By the way, if you want your questions answered, post them on this channel because this is where I get the majority of the questions. So the question is, what do you do during a phone call with a girl? I try and get her out on a date. That's basically it. The purpose of the phone, whether it's for texting, for calling, whatever you're doing through that medium, it's to get her out on a date because you can communicate a lot more effectively in person than you can through ones and zeros or through your voice or whatever. Basically, in terms of best communication, in person is the best. Something like Skype or FaceTime, if you can do it, is pretty good. Phone is pretty good. Texting is less good, right? And even worse than that is like social media through text, because then it's even more removed, right? So the more personal it is and the more direct the interaction, the better you're overall gonna do, and the more like channels you can communicate on. So the purpose of a phone call is to get her out on a date. That's it. Okay, now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you pick up the phone and you're like, hey, what's up, wanna go on a date? Okay, no, bye, click. And funny enough, that's actually what I did when I first learned game, because I was taught that like the whole goal of game was to not make mistakes and not mess up. So I was just trying to like get to the asking her out part without messing up. It doesn't work like that, because that is messing up, okay? What you actually need to do is you wanna have a good vibe with the girl, have like kind of a decent conversation a little bit, and then rather than going directly for the plans, you wanna do what I call the soft close. So soft close basically is instead of, hey, let's get together Tuesday for tacos at Johnny's Taco Stand, that's like very specific to one particular day. And you may hear no, even if she wants to hang out with you. Or it may just be too sudden, like you're having a conversation, all of a sudden she's like, oh shit, he's asking me out, I don't know what to do, I'm nervous, hesitate, right? What you wanna do is you wanna kinda lead into it gradually. So maybe it might be like, you know what? You're actually not the worst person in the world to talk to. I kind of don't hate you, right? And she's like, haha, yeah, you're an asshole, but I like you too, right? And then you're like, yeah, maybe we'll meet up in person sometime if you play your cards right. She's like, yeah, that could be fun. Like, all right, yeah, who knows? What's your week look like? And she goes, I'm busy tomorrow, but I'm free Wednesday and Thursday. Like, okay, cool. Let's do Wednesday evening. Sound good? Okay, cool. Right? So it's that process of closing over a series of questions or closing over, ideally, a series of bits of compliance, right? It's like you suggest something, she says yes, you suggest something, she says yes. In sales, it's called a yes ladder. You get them to say yes to a bunch of things, they get used to saying yes, and then it's almost difficult to say no at the end, especially if they've already agreed to all the pieces. If they've agreed that they wouldn't mind hanging out with you, they've agreed they're free on that date, it's hard for them to say no to the specific plan, and so a lot of times they'll say yes. And then, you want to confirm. Another little point that I will do is if you are confirming plans more than a day or two in advance, I like to leave them vague. So even then, I don't want to be like, let's get together at this place at 7. Instead, I'll be, let's get together in this area after work. Because that way you have an extra text or an extra phone call, but in reality, it'll probably be an extra text in the bag where you can follow up. So on the day of, instead of being like, hey, are we still on? Which looks really needy and really lame. Instead, you're like, hey, let's go to this place. And it makes sense because she still needed that information. So you're still assuming it's on, but you're touching base and confirming in a positive way and in a way that's moving towards the plans as opposed to a way that's needy and like assuming the plans might not be going on. So that's pretty good. Another big thing in dealing with girls on the phone, let's say you're leading towards plans and you get some sort of like hesitation or some sort of like non-compliance or even a flat out no. What you want to do, what most guys will do is they'll start begging. So they'll be like, so you're free Friday? No. Okay, what about Saturday? Well, no, I'm busy then. How about Sunday? And by then you look really needy and really weird. Instead, when you get that first no, you want to back off, tease her. Maybe she's like, hey, no, I'm busy, taking care of my grandma. I'm like, oh my God, you're so sweet. I love this. See, I thought you were this like naughty, like club girl and like so much fun. Now I realize you're sweet and boring and we'll have no fun talking whatsoever. So you tease her a little bit, give her a hard time, haha, and she's like laughing, haha, you're so cute, you're so fun. And then once the vibe's good again, then you're like, okay, so I am kind of busy part of the week, but I might be able to swing sometime Saturday. And then she's like, okay, Saturday works or Saturday doesn't work. But instead of being this conversation where it's like you ask and hear no and ask and hear no and ask and hear no, and the vibe gets worse and worse and needier, instead, there's a lot of good positive communication in between the asks, and there's not this series of no's. Especially if you're doing yes ladders, your next close will have yes, yes, yes before you get to the next no. So the vibe you're creating is a lot better. You're not being needy, you're not being desperate on the phone. Other thing with a phone call is when you first get the girl on the phone, you don't know what kind of mood she's gonna be in. So she may be really happy and like excited to hear from you, and that's great. Sometimes she may be distracted or confused, or sometimes she may have even half forgotten who you are, like especially if you've been texting for a long time. And so you have to be prepared in the same way you would on a cold approach open. You have to be prepared to carry the conversation a little bit, right? So when I was first learning phone game, I actually had a pre-prepared story. Like I had like, oh, you wouldn't believe what happened to me today, and I'd have this story prepared in case she wasn't like ready to talk. Nowadays, I don't do that anymore because I don't need to. I just like pick it up and I just like go off of her tone of voice and I just kind of tease her and kid with her and stuff like that. But if you're not comfortable on the phone, if you're not that good on the phone, having some kind of pre-prepared story that you know works, that you know is kind of cute or funny, can be good for you so you have the confidence to say something. And also so that if she is in this kind of like blah mood, you can at least start the conversation in a direction and get the flirtation going. And so that can be very, very useful. Final thing, even though it's kind of the first thing, when do you pick up the phone and text her? There's a couple times. One is if you've arranged a time. So if you've said, hey, I'll call you at a certain time, then you have permission to call at that time and it's not needy or creepy. So that's one good way to go. It requires a little bit of like, you know, something planned in the texting, but it can be very good. Another one is if she texts you something very long or very confusing. Like for example, exactly today, I had this girl where I asked her what her schedule looked like, and she said, have dinner tonight, and then I'm going to this place tomorrow. And so I was like, I forget what I texted, but I texted something about, okay, well, cool, let me know if there is a time you're, you know, I'm a little busy, but let me know if there's a time you're free later. And she's like, I just told you. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm confused by this. So I started to text, does dinner tonight mean you're free for dinner tonight? And the club tomorrow, is that an invite? And I'm like, that's just a dumb text. It looks weird, it looks needy. So that's a moment when the texting is confusing and there's too much detail. Pick up the phone and call. Picked up the phone, called her, and set the date for tomorrow. Okay? So that's an example of a situation where if you were talking to a friend, you would pick up the phone and call the friend, so you should pick up the phone and call the girl. Another good example is if the texting is just going for a while, but maybe you're texting back and forth quickly at a particular time. Well, now you know she's holding her phone, and she knows you know she's holding her phone, so if you call her, she's almost obligated to pick up. And your odds of getting a date if you get her on the phone are way better than via text. So me, you know, in text game, I have like an okay text game. I get girls out a decent amount. I'd say like if I get a girl, you know, if I'm texting with a girl and she's texted back to the first text, I'm probably gonna get out on a date a little more than 50-50, which is, by the way, that sounds bad, but that's a really, really good ratio. Like if you're getting girls out like 50-50 in that situation, you're actually pretty good at text game, as much as it sounds like a bad ratio. But if I can get a girl on the phone, I'm getting her out for a date like 95% of the time. And I'm not even kidding when I say it. Like 19 times out of 20, I'm getting her on a date if A, she's compliant enough to pick up the phone, and then B, because I'm good on the phone. So I really do like those moments when you can pick up the phone. You're gonna set your dates way more easily. Use the phone as a phone, please, and not just as a message sending machine, all right? Yeah, use the phone, learn the phone is your friend. One of the biggest indicators for me for a guy who's gonna get success in game or not get success in game at a beginner intermediate level is, does he follow up with his numbers, and is he focusing on getting his text game and his phone game good?